guys, we are live. Hopefully things look okay. I decided to just stream from my phone because we have a crazy winter storm going on, and I wanted to make sure that my internet connection wasn't being overloaded with kids doing at-home schoolwork and all that kind of stuff. So let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm trying to double. Oh, there it goes. Okay, perfect. I'm looking at my iPad to make sure I can see comments and stuff. So today is, if you've been around a lot, hey there, good morning, guys. That a lot of times sometimes we'll do like, I guess we'll call it, my brain is not working. Apparently I need more coffee, friends. But when you're here, sometimes we do projects that are project-based. Sometimes we learn new technique-based. So today is just going to be a creative play day. That's kind of just what, sometimes it's just what you're in the mood for. It's what I was in the mood for, is just let's play. And we're going to be playing in our Illustrating Bible. And if you saw the post yesterday, we're actually going to be playing in Ezekiel. I'm going to tuck my little piece of plastic. Good morning. Y'all, it is currently like not even snowing. Like we went outside earlier and it is like, it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Dippin' Dots. They're like, the little bitty balls of ice cream that you can get. That's basically what's going on outside my house right now. It's these little bitty balls of ice. And they are just going. We probably have, I don't even know how much ice at this point. But it's not like slick ice. It's like Dippin' Dot ice cream kind of ice. It's so weird. But that's what's going on outside my house right now. So here's hoping between that and the fact that all three of my kids are doing virtual from home today, that none of that is dealing with messes with my internet and stuff. It's 7 o'clock in the evening here. All right. Okay, just because I'm always curious, when you have a second, throw it in the comments. What is the temperature where you are? Where we are, it is currently, I believe, 20 something, but feels like single digits. So good morning. So I'm going to grab stuff, and stuff's going to fall. So those of you that are joining us, hey there. We are in Ezekiel, and we're playing in our Illustrating Bible. Oops. But I am going to move it for right now. And then I found this stencil. So we were talking in, let's do a little Devo before we jump into about the same temp there. So I was reading in Ezekiel. So back that up. They were discussing we're doing a series called Love Handles in our at our church, and we were discussing, I can't remember the topic because again, I either need more or less coffee. And he said, hey, when you have a chance, go read Ezekiel 35 or 36. And I was like, okay. So I was reading through Ezekiel. And I love how if you're reading through Ezekiel, by the way, this is the She Reads Truth Bible, in case you're wondering what Bible. It's still fairly new. It's why it still looks clean and stuff. So, but I was reading it actually on my phone, as one does when you're doing various things. And I was reading through, and I just love how if you read through all of Ezekiel 36, and really actually part of 37 as well. In fact, Ezekiel 37 is one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, which we'll talk about in a second. But 36 is literally just all about restoration. It's all about God saying, here's what you did, but I'm going to give you this. Here's maybe what some people think you deserve, but I'm going to give you this. And here's the ways that you messed up, but I still love you. So I'm going to give you this. And I just love that idea of restoration that is in here. And then so we were going to focus today on verses 26 and 27, where it says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will place my spirit within you and cause you to follow my statutes and carefully observe my ordinances. And so I was thinking on that idea and thinking about what we were going to talk about today. And I happened to open this Bible and I was like, because a lot of times they'll have like notes and that kind of stuff. And they actually have an entire little Devo on this subject and on these verses. And so I wanted to read this little part that I thought was great because it actually references Ezekiel 36, 26 through 27. And then it says this: I love that God doesn't say he'll patch things up with his people. He doesn't offer to put a Band-Aid over it, wipe the dust off, or ignore the wound. The imagery used here is that of complete renewal, not a repaired heart, but a new heart. And I loved that idea of that God doesn't put a Band-Aid on it. He doesn't like stitch our hearts together. If anybody else in their house, or maybe someone in their house, love the movie Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a biggie in our house. We love it. But there's a character in it named Sally, and she's kind of like almost like a girl version of the Frankenstein's monster, where she's been sewn together and pieced together. Even her dress is like patches of stuff that's been sewn together and put together. And I think sometimes when we say God gives us a new heart, we have that idea of we're just like these little, I'm going to take this part of your life, this part of your life, this part of your life, and stitch them back together and that kind of stuff. And that does happen, but it happens in such a miraculous and godly way that when God's done stitching it all back together, it's a new heart. It's all new. It's miraculously healed. And it's not about the stitches and it's not about the broken pieces. It's about the fact that we have a new heart. It even goes, in this little Devo, goes through and actually references how it continues, in that idea continues into the New Testament, that this theme of transformation continues into the New Testament. It's what Paul is talking about in his letter to the Corinthians when he says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, and see, the new has come. And that is 2 Corinthians 5:17. So I wanted to put together something that dealt with kind of that, I guess, idea of being new and the kind of idea of we're not patchwork. And so I wanted to try, we'll see if this works because I'm me. And actually, I was going to use my 8x10 plate, but I think I'm going to switch out and use a different one. Yes, isn't that imagery so good? It's like, we are big, Nightmare Before. In case my sound gets weird, I'm walking across the studio to grab something else real quick. Let's see, where is it? Talk amongst yourselves for a second. There it is. Oh, it's dirty, all right. And I'm back. But I love that imagery that, Sally is pieced together, and sometimes we feel like when we come to Christ, our wounds are still visible, and it's pieced together and all that kind of stuff, and it's really not. I mean, there's numerous scriptures that talk about a new heart, not a repaired heart. And I just loved that. I loved that imagery. It really spoke to me whenever I was reading through Ezekiel. And then you'll notice in Ezekiel, I can't talk this morning, friends. If we go, well, now I got to find it again. Anyway, when you go, here it is. If you go through in Ezekiel, Ezekiel 36 goes right into one of my favorite verses, particularly because one of my favorite elevation songs, good morning, is the song Rattle, which if you haven't heard it, I'll share it. It's kind of my anthem, but it's about the dry bones coming back to life. And that's discussed in chapter 37 of Ezekiel, which is right after what we're talking about. And so I love, again, that imagery of you don't just have if you have a broken heart and you have broken pieces, you can be fully restored. And then I love that imagery goes even further. Then it says, even if you think you're dead, even if you are dead, that even from dry bones, you can come back to life in Christ. It reinforces that idea that you are never too far gone. And I love that. And that was speaking to me. So that's kind of what our thoughts are. Yes. Simone, you are one of my favorite people. That is one of my favorite imageries. If you guys aren't familiar, read her comment real quick. So it is, I'm going to say this wrong, and I do every time. It's kintsugi. I'm not sure if that's right, but it's this Japanese method of using gold to fix cracks in pottery. And I like how you say, I think God uses gold to fix us and turn us into something even more precious than we were before. And I love that. So the idea of whatever that is that I can't say is that when an important vessel gets broken, rather than tossing it out or just using, super glue or Elmer's glue, they actually use gold to piece it back together. So the cracks are shown. The cracks are now a thing of beauty. I've actually used that example in a devotion before, because I absolutely love it that our wounds aren't always meant to be disguised. Sometimes they're meant to be flaunted as a proclamation of what God has done for us. And so, yes, that is one of my favorite kind of visualize. You probably none of you have ever probably heard me speak live, but I'm very much a visual aid kind of person when it comes to my talks, because I am such a visual person. I like the idea of like object lessons and that kind of stuff to get my point across, and it keeps people entertained and keeps people focused, because I know me, and I'm a squirrel, and I'm like 2 seconds in, I'm either falling asleep or I'm doodling, or I'm like, oh, look at the pretty colors. I talk about that all the time in here, that I'm a total squirrel. So this is the plate we're going to be using. It is actually from the gel press line that we co-branded with Ranger. It comes in like a 3-pack with this one, this size, and a round one. This one's really great for using in your illustrated Bible. The 8x10 works great, but you end up with quite a bit left. So this size, I believe, if I remember right. Oh, wait. I have a ruler. Imagine that. I am prepared, friends. This one is 11 by 5.5. So it's a really good one for your margins of your illustrating Bible. By the way, if you guys don't have one of these, they're super handy. I mean, I don't tend to measure a lot, but this is a quilting ruler, and it's super handy for measuring. So just, my plate is still a version. I've been too intimidated to use it yet. It's so squeaky. That's okay. You know what I always say when people are scared? Just slap a single color of paint on it. Single color. Because at the very least, you're seasoning it. Because if you have a new plate, and this is something that you guys might not know, or if your plate is a virgin or you haven't bought one yet, gel press plates are actually made out of mineral oil, which I know is super weird, especially considering you can do this to it. But, of course, it being oil-based, if you go and try to add any kind of water-based medium to it, it's going to bead up, because, hello, elementary school science, oil and water aren't friends. They don't mix. I've got hair all over myself today. So adding a few layers and doing a few pulls in the very beginning, you're going to see it do that little bead up thing. So just keep that in mind. And so slap some paint on it, pull some print, slap some paint. Don't do anything fancy. Just have some fun. And once you kind of get into the groove and stop the idea that it has to be this beautiful masterpiece that you're literally just seasoning your plate. We'll use the kitchen term for like your cast iron skillet. You're seasoning your plate. You're getting it prepped and ready. You're not really trying to create anything. It kind of takes some of that pressure off of what you think you're supposed to be doing. So try that and see if that kind of gets over that fear of whatever might be holding you back. Because you're not trying to make anything. You're just prepping your plate. You're just seasoning your plate. That's all we're doing. I also have this stencil from the Crafter's Workshop, which I'll put the link down in the thing in the comments for you guys when we're done. It's TCW 585. I should have looked up the name, but I didn't. Sorry. But I liked the words in this, because I feel like when God is creating us new and he's creating our hearts, he starts to either give us these things for the first time or changes our viewpoint on them. So you might begin, your dreams might change because you have a new heart. You might experience love for the first time for yourself because you've learned to love God. You might begin to create differently and in new ways. You might be brave for the first time. You might figure out what it means to be happy, or what happy maybe looks different once you have a heart in Christ. Because before we come to Christ, maybe our version of happy is different than it is once we come to Christ. And so I wanted to kind of go with that idea of a new heart, and these are, some of the ideas that start to change as we allow God to give us a new heart and in a new creation. And it's one of those, it's not going to happen all at one time. It would be great if we could flip that switch and be like, everything's great. I'm happy all the time. My dreams are coming true. I have great vision. Everything I create is magic. It's not going to happen, and that's okay. But I just love the idea of these are some of the things that as we create, it's not about just going to heaven, which is great, which is amazing. And it's not just about like feeling better about ourselves. But God actually wants to go in and change all of this for us. And that's part of creating a new heart. He wants to change how we love ourselves and how we love others. He wants to change our dreams. He wants to give us peace maybe that we've never had. That for some of us, peace is a new kind of idea because we've never had it before. He wants us to understand what being happy means. That happy is not always a feeling. Sometimes it's just a choice. And so all that babbling to say that this is what we were going to use as kind of our idea here. And one thing to remember, and this is always a thing to remember, if you're ever using a stencil that has words, you want to make sure when you put it on your gel plate that you're actually putting it on backwards, because what we're doing, everything is going to be flipped. So if I put it on the words where I could read them, when I flip them over and we actually print them in our Bible, they're going to be backwards. So we want to make sure they're backwards to begin with. And you can see I actually used this plate and never cleaned it off. So we're going to end up with all these grungy, yummy little bits. Hey, Kimberly, welcome. So just always kind of keep that in mind when you're dealing with your plate and words and numbers. Or anything that needs to be facing a specific way. Just make sure it's always reversed when you apply it to your plate. And we're going to start with just some black acrylic paint. And I'm very sad because I went to go get my makeup sponges that I always use for my creating. And they're usually like those kind of wedge style. Well, Walmart was out of them. So I had to buy this weird pack that has like who needs this shape for their cosmetic stuff? I'm like, who needs these weird... Anyway, I'm angry at it. But there are a few wedge ones down in the bottom. These are kind of nice though. I might still... I'm not mad at those. So anyway, that made me angry. So, I might have gotten... Not angry, but I was unhappy in the middle of Walmart. But they're not my faves. And I feel like they're harshing my mellow. All right, so we're going to use these, and we're actually going to create our background. I wanted a really kind of bold and graphic background using these words, so I'm actually using just a straight up black. Y'all know my favorite is the Folk Art Multi-Surface. I know, the colors are pretty, right? Maybe I could turn them into a 3D piece of art or something. All right, so we're going to go in and do our little tappy here. And create almost kind of, I know we did kind of a graffiti thing last time, but last time that was using Posca pens. Apparently, y'all know I tend to be on the messy side of life when it comes to creating. In case you're new, that's how it works. I tend to be messy. And I want to make sure we definitely get some of these specific words. So I'm going to actually reposition my stencil. And do a little dabby dab. And I don't know if anyone has wondered, I get this a lot though, but this acrylic sheet that it's on is actually from a company called Joggles. It's a 9x11, so it actually barely fits this size. But it makes it easier when you're dealing with your plate, if you're putting it in an art journal, in a Bible journal, just anything where you're needing to maneuver it. It just makes it really, really handy. However, it can get kind of expensive, so that is great. But my favorite is just to always go to like a Lowe's, and they have acrylic sheets that you can have cut to the size you need, and that kind of thing. So, trying to decide where to put stuff. But it does make it super easy to kind of deal with maneuvering it and that kind of stuff. And like I said, Lowe's is way cheaper, but I do like supporting small businesses, so this one is from Joggles. And that's JOGGLES.com. Her name is Barbara. She's very sweet. She also has some really great foam stamps and rubber texture plates. So definitely check that out. I'll try to remember to put a link to her store in the show notes as well. I wonder if I can. I want to get the word peace in here, but I don't know if that's going to fit. Oh, derp. How about I just turn it instead of trying to do it crossways? So let's see, let's put peace right here. And you can see I actually flipped it so that my words aren't all facing the same way. Hey, Tracy. My words aren't all facing the same way, just to add some interest. So those of you that might be joining later, we are working on our gel press plate, and we are actually going to be working in our Illustrating Bible in Ezekiel 36, particularly verses 36 or 26 to 27. We're discussing the idea of how when God says he's going to give us a new heart, that it's not kind of a stitched together pieces of a heart. It's actually a brand new state-of-the-art kind of thing. And we're using this stencil to kind of reinforce the idea that these are some of the things, once we start allowing God to change our heart, these are things that will begin to change in our life. How we love, how we dream, what we see as bravery, I think a lot of times changes. Because I think sometimes, and this is just a little bit of a tangent that I'm going off on, I think sometimes too often we think brave has to be a big gigantic gesture. It's like, I think we've all been ruined a little bit by rom-coms, and that bravery is when the guy runs through the airport and confesses his love right before she jets off wherever. Or it's the, if you're from the 80s, it's the standing on the car with the boombox. That bravery is only big gestures, and it's not. Sometimes bravery is small things. Sometimes bravery is, getting up out of the bed and walking out the door, or getting up and getting dressed, taking a shower. Sometimes facing the world is the bravest thing you can do. And it's not a big thing to most people. To most people, getting up and getting out of bed it's not a big deal. They do it every day. It doesn't bother them. But for other people, that's a big sign of bravery. Yeah, I think that's so true, Simone. Definitely, bravery is admitting you need help. And I think to some people, asking for help seems like a small thing if they've never been scared of asking for help, right? And so it's, to some, everyone needs to define what their bravery looks like and be okay with that. Be like, okay, God, I'm going to be brave today. What does that look like? And I love that. Sometimes it's just asking for help. Sometimes it is big. Sometimes bravery is, leaving that abusive situation. I'm just going in with this circle and adding some more colors and stuff. So we'll chat while I do this. I think I'm going to stick with, since I've got those oranges and greens and whites in the background, I think I'm going to kind of stick with that color scheme. So I think we need to redefine bravery and define it. Bravery is such an individual thing. For some people, that first time you walked into church, bravest thing you've ever done. Sometimes maybe it's when you walk down to the altar for prayer, knowing everyone's going to talk about you and wonder, oh, what's wrong? what's wrong? What does she need prayer for? And the gossip mills are going to start. It's the bravest thing you're ever going to do. Sometimes walking away from a bad relationship, bravest thing you're ever going to do. Or like someone said, sometimes just asking for help, realizing you can't do it on your own. I can do it myself kind of girl. I don't know about you guys, but that tends to be my independence sometimes biting me in the tushy. But it's kind of, it was the way I was kind of raised of you're independent, you do for yourself. You don't go to therapy, you don't deal with stuff. I'm Southern, and if you've ever dealt with or have a Southern family, we tend to be a sweep it under the rug kind of thing instead of a let's deal with it kind of thing. And so I was kind of raised in the we don't talk about it. Not to go in conto, but we don't talk about Bruno, right? Unfortunately, that's how a lot of families live when it comes to trauma, when it comes to all sorts of different things. It's that we don't talk about Bruno, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Encanto and Bruno, and the song will be stuck in your head forever. But I think that's a lot of what this scripture is talking about too, is in spite of all of that, you can still find forgiveness. You can still find healing. You can still find all of that, whatever your version of brave is. All of these words that we're kind of playing with all are something that we all want. I mean, we're all human, so we want love, we want peace, we want to dream big, and everybody's dream big is different. I think that's super important too. I think too often we get stuck into well, if my dream isn't the same as someone else's, then I must be dreaming wrong. Maybe your dream is to be a stay-at-home mom. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But to others, that might not be their dream. But I think, we'll stay on the stay-at-home moms thing. I think sometimes stay-at-home moms, get that rap of, oh, that's all you wanted to be. And I'm like, if you've ever been a stay-at-home mom, that's like 50 jobs in one. Just saying. But maybe that's not your dream, and that's okay. When God starts creating a new heart in you, allow his dreams to become your dreams, because he knows what's best for us anyway, and it might look different. And that's okay too. And it's going to look different from somebody else's. All right, let's see what other color. I have this lime greenish color. Let me see if I can find my lime green. There it is. I'm actually so I originally had a completely different idea planned, a completely different talk planned. We were actually going to be making, to show you how different that God kind of guides me when I'm doing these, is we were actually originally going to discuss the idea of change. And we were going to make actually daisies using one of the heart gel press plates, and just that idea of, whenever change, which is still true, change always makes me think of spring and that kind of stuff and making new. But then I really got to thinking about it, and, a lot of times spring isn't bringing anything new. It's not bringing usually back new plants. It's actually reviving plants that have been dormant through the winter and are bringing them back. So it's restoring plants, not bringing new ones. And so the plant thing just didn't, I don't know, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it's not giving the idea that I want. But I love this idea that we're discussing of what does change mean for us. And if you guys want, I'd love if you guys pop off in the comments and just give us some ideas of, maybe someone had a great idea. Yes, that green. I love this green. It's literally called lime green. So yay. So if you feel comfortable, I know not everyone's a typer talker. Maybe you're listening to this instead of like being able to typey. Shh, I won't tell your work you're doing this. But yeah, if you have a chance, throw it out in the comments about maybe God is working on you on being braver. Maybe God is working on you on self-love, and not in the worldly version of self-love. I'm beginning to actually hate that idea, because sometimes self-love is taken to the extreme of, then it becomes selfish love. And so it's definitely about finding that happy medium in between. But if you guys feel comfortable, I would love for you to throw in the comments maybe if God's dealing with any of these kind of things for you. Or if it's a concept that you had trouble grasping. I know even some Christians that have been Christians for a long time, or newbie Christians, that idea of the new heart and the changing is sometimes really hard to grasp. And there's nothing wrong with going, I don't get it, I don't understand it, I don't know why. And I think that's okay too. I think there's nothing wrong. So Tracy's talking about finding balance. Okay, I think that's a huge one. I can definitely get behind the idea of trying to find balance. So I'm actually looking for my white while we're chatting. So if my sound gets weird, it's because I'm walking around my studio again, because I thought my white was up here and it's not. Hey, Julie, you are fine. So Julie, and anyone else that might have popped in later, we are right now playing on our Draw Press Plate, but we're discussing Ezekiel 36, 26, and 27, which, you know what, let me read it again real quick since we have a few people that came in late. I'm going to grab it real quick. So 26 and 27 says, I give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will place my spirit within you and cause you to follow my statutes and carefully observe my ordinances. So we're discussing just that idea of what it means to have a new heart, and what it means for God to create that new heart in us. And we were discussing the idea of whenever God says he's going to give you a new heart, that it's not like, I used the reference or the idea of Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, how she's stitched together like Frankenstein's monster, even her dress is patchworked, but that's not the kind of new heart that God wants for us. It's not band-aided, it's not stitched together, it's new. And we're kind of using this project with to kind of help jumpstart us with what that idea looks like and what that means. We've used some words like brave and peace and create and dream and love. These are some of the things that God begins to change in us whenever he is creating a new heart for us. And so you're welcome. So that's just kind of what we're discussing. And if people if you guys feel comfortable, definitely, I think Tracy was the one that said she's something that God's working new in her is finding balance. Ooh, my white is almost out, friends. And I think that's super important, definitely, especially if we all go through seasons of imbalance, and sometimes there's no way out. Sometimes you just have to be imbalanced for a little while. But after a while, imbalance can actually lead to permanent disfigurement, and you don't want that. It's like, I'm a runner, and if you're someone who always runs the same track, and so when you're turning that curve, you're always leaning to the left. You're always leaning to the left. And you do that for years, and you're always leaning to the left. You run the same course. You're even running the same trail, the same whatever. Your muscle memory gets used to it. So then if you move to something else and you go to a different trail or a different track and you run to the right, you're going to notice it because you have programmed your body to lean to the left. And now your body is out of balance. So I'm just using my brayer and some white paint. And what that's going to do is, if you're kind of new, this is going to kind of act as the glue to harmonize all of our paint that we put on. And you notice that I didn't clean my plate before. It still had some remnants of an old project on it. And so it's actually going to rehydrate, reactivate that dry paint so that it should, if I added the correct amount of paint, add like a nice grungy kind of funky texture to our project here. And I'm actually going to move stuff around so I can get my Bible back up here. Yay. And then I do love, so like I said, I've got this plastic acrylic thing that makes it super easy to kind of man handle, woman handle, whatever we're calling it. This, and then it makes it super easy to kind of flip. And what's great is you can kind of get a little bit of an idea of that kind of grungy thing we got going on there. And it allows you to line it up just right there. And I realized I lined it up wrong because my love is now off my page, but that's okay. We'll put it somewhere else. It is all good. And so I'm just going to give it just a nice little press here. And give it some nice little, and let it just kind of sit for a moment. And this is obviously something that you can do. So this is for the Faith Impressions. This is actually the normal size of a, let me grab one real quick. Woo. Of your illustrating or your regular journaling Bible. So this one fits perfectly in the margins. So you can do this same technique, obviously on a smaller scale if you don't have the illustrating Bible, which not everybody does, and that's okay. Or you could do it on a larger scale if you have the interleaved Bible, which I would show you my interleaved Bible, but I don't know where it is right now. Is that it? Oh, there it is. Ugh. Apparently I took it somewhere and then never took it out. So if you're not familiar, this is the interleaved Bible. So it has an entire blank page opposite every page of scripture, which makes for oodles of space to create with. Yay. All right, let's do a little peel and reveal here. It is grungy fun goodness. I love that. So because of the way I positioned it, because I wasn't exactly sure how I would fit it on there, we've got create, peace, brave. And I kind of like the idea that the create, peace kind of automatically went together without kind of intending to. And you can see we've got all those little grungy bits that were left over from the one that was on here before. So you've got some little green splops, some little yellow splops, all that kind of stuff. And so we don't lose what we worked on. I'm going to go grab a piece of just regular paper here. And we're just going to make sure we get our little leftover bits so that we could use that in another project. And if you guys know me, I tend to be like not super precise, not like, I mean, I think there is a time and a place for my letters to be perfect, for this and that to be perfect, but I kind of tend to lean and love more that more organic, grungy kind of style. So I'm just using a piece of paper to get the rest of this off so that I can use that create and that love and just those little, all those yummy bits of color and stuff on another project. And my plate is kind of clean. Does that count as clean? Just say yes. All right, so we've got our cool background. I'm actually going to pull this out because I don't think we really need it anymore. And then I'm going to come over. No. I was going to use my black Posca pen, but oh, hey, it's right there. Let's see. So I want to, actually, I'm going to grab my, there they are. They fell off my desk earlier while I was doing something. So these are my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. And I just realized the colors I need are somewhere else. So this is my kind of on-the-go pen situation. And then I have a bullet journal that I'm trying to use. Not super great at it as far as like remembering to do it. I don't need yellow, I just need this green. So here is kind of the colors we are using. And what's great about these is they're called Pitt Artist Pens. So they are actually India ink, so they are permanent, which makes it really nice if you are wanting to add more layers and stuff on top of it. You can go as far as, you know, let me grab, I'm grabbing a stamp as I hit something. Let's see, let me find a stamp. Let's do that. So you can use it for writing. You can come in with, say, a stamp and do, this stamp is crusty, it needs to be cleaned. So, but you can come in here, or if you have a really fancy stamp, you can actually color the individual things. Now you can't really see it because, like I said, this stamp is crusty, but you can draw on your paint, on your stencil or stamps, use them in your stencils. But what's great about them, because they are India ink based, they are permanent. So it makes for good, just long-lasting projects. They're light, fast, waterproof. Let's see, I can read it. It says, ooh, not in German, I can't. So it's waterproof and permanent, which is super nice and great. All right, so we're gonna use this to actually just highlight. I love this orange, and it kind of matches our orange perfectly that we used over there. And I want to bring in that idea of the heart, because I kind of feel like we got the words, we got that kind of thing. So let's use our black Posca pen, and let's just do some kind of doodly hearts. I tend to like to doodle on the margin or the border here, and what I like to do, and this is going to absolutely make some people go bonkers, is sometimes go in and kind of dab around it to make it a little bit messier and not so perfect. People might hate that, but that's okay. To kind of make the edges a little less perfect. I think it also works nice. Some people will hate this because some people hate finger painting, and I'm not mad at it. Because these are kind of more distressed, I feel like you can obviously use something else, but I tend to just be hey, my fingers are available. And it just makes them a little less perfect, and it fits in with the kind of imperfections we have over on this. So we're just adding some dots and kind of letting them bleed out a little bit. This is gonna sound real stupid. I'm not a great doodler, and I know that sounds weird to say, but I wonder if I could use this. Okay, now we're just experimenting. Oh, that works pretty good too if you don't want to use a finger. It kind of just picks up a little bit. So I'm just kind of adding some doodles and some lines and some hearts. And I kind of like to do this too, especially if whatever I'm doing doesn't translate, like the design doesn't kind of creep over into the word section, because I feel like it helps disguise a little bit of the drastic line between my creative section and my word section. Just kind of giving it some just kind of camouflage. We'll call it camouflage. And then I'm going to use the same thing kind of on my edges really lightly. Just bringing that kind of squiggles and maybe some dots here and there so that it kind of makes sense. And it kind of brings the whole thing kind of together. And then let's see, what else do we need? Got a black pen right here. Let's double check and make sure it wants to work, because I am horrible. Shout out in the comments if you do this too. I'm horrible about leaving lids off. Hey Kat, I didn't realize you were in here. Hi love. So Kat Kerr, she's right there. She's actually on the Gel Press Creative Artist team. She is fabulous. Her style tends to be a little bit like mine, where it's like grungy, funky kind of stuff, loves bright colors. We were roommates at CHA, I don't know how many years ago now. And so we're bonded. We've bonded over that. And Kat actually has stencils. Okay, if she doesn't correct me, because she's already gone or something, I'll jump in and look. I know she has stencils with Stencil Girl, so I'll leave a link to those. And then, oh good, you are still here, Kat. Kat, plug yourself. Where can they find your stencils and your texture plates and your foam stamps? I know you have all three, and I cannot remember which companies they are with. So plug yourself real quick while I doodle. Her stuff is super fun and funky and grungy, but she's like me. Her grunge is like, can we call it bubblegum grunge? Is that what we would call it? Or 80s grunge, because it's like bright and funky colors? I don't know. I feel like we need to name our style a little bit. I don't know what it would be though. All right, I'm going to go in and define some of my circles. I love how, because I used this kind of cheap craft paint, I'll do some close-up pictures for you, but where the circles have kind of automatically have kind of overlapped, they automatically are adding like this. Here's a blue one, here's a green one, and then they overlap and make this kind. Oh, good. There we go. Perfect. Kat got a little linky tree for you guys to see all her stuff. It's fabulous. So I'm adding, again, some grunginess and not trying for perfection. Because notice we're discussing the idea of a new heart. It doesn't say perfect heart. And it doesn't say that it's going to be without issues just because we are Christians. Like, the Bible literally says, take heart, you will have troubles. Not if you have troubles. It literally says when. And I think that's a trap a lot of people fall into. This is just me while I'm doodling, chatting. Is the idea that saying yes to Jesus is a light switch that makes everything perfect. And it's not about it being perfect. It's about going in the middle of the imperfection. I still have hope. I still have faith. I still believe. I know something good is going to come out of this. So it's not about perfection. It's not about everything being perfect and being great and being, you know, it's the world. The world, can I say sucks? The world sucks sometimes. Life sucks sometimes. Life is hard sometimes. Life is a battle sometimes. Faith is a battle sometimes. You can be in the middle of something and question God. And I think too often we're raised with the idea, if you're in the church, or we're raised with the idea of not questioning God. And I'm always of the mindset that if Jesus literally questioned his very own Father while he was hanging on the cross dying, I think I can go, hey, God, why is this happening? Can you give a girl some insight? And so, and then I think I'm going to come in, I'm going to doodle the word heart. So, in just varying places wherever there's straight lines. Oh. So those of you that either are coming in late, yes, you can totally watch the replay and listen to my babbling. It's Jesus babbling though, does that count? So I'm actually just using a bunch of different fonts. Not that my handwriting has a bunch of different fonts, but I'm trying. Am I the only person that like absolutely hates their handwriting? No matter how hard I try, and I know this is the comparison game, and the comparison is the thief of joy and all that kind of fun stuff, but I want to be able to do that really pretty, like, modern calligraphy, and my stubby hands, just for whatever reason, just can't seem to figure it out. But I try. That's all I can do, right? We can try. And not every art style is going to be our art style. Yes. The big thing with this, Beth, is just to make sure that if you're using words, that when you put it on your gel plate, that your words are backwards. Like if this is from a stencil. Where did I put it? There it is. I was like, where did I put my stencil? So this is the stencil we use, and I'll link it down below for later. But just make sure anytime you're putting it on your gel, any words or letters or numbers or anything that has to have a specific facing, make sure when you put it on your gel plate that it's backwards so that when you do the flip, it comes out correctly. I want to love my handwriting, and I feel like sometimes I like it, but only if I'm like, you know, like you're in kindergarten and you got your big stubby pencil and you're trying to learn your letters. So you're doing it really slow and methodical. And then by like the fourth letter, I'm like, and I'm done. Maybe that's just me. So I'm just using that, the word heart, to kind of, again, reinforce that idea that we're creating a new heart. We're creating, and through that created heart, we create differently. We look at peace differently. We look at bravery differently. We look at all of those things that make us human differently once we start looking at it through that filter of a new heart in Christ. Let me go in here and do some doodlies, because you can never have enough scribbles and doodles. Maybe that's just me. And I will say too, for future reference, doodles and scribbles are a good way to hide something if you mess something up or you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So years ago, whenever I was very big into scrapbooking, I had a friend on scrapbook.com that had her little tagline was, there's no such thing as a mistake, just room to embellish. And I was like, well, that's pretty accurate. It's like, you know, and the running joke is, if you don't like it, put a bird on it. Have you guys ever heard that? We get that a lot because, you know, birds are kind of a type that get painted a lot or get added to things a lot. All right, I'm going to come in with a little bit of white paint. And actually, you know what? I think I'm going to do the dibby dab here and use the end of my paintbrush and go in and just add a few little white dots just to kind of brighten things up a little bit, because we do have a lot of grunginess and distressedness. So I'm just using the end of a paintbrush. You could use a Q-tip. This just happens to be what I have. You can use whatever, or you could not do it at all. I just kind of liked it. So just adding some, but this is an easy way to kind of add some dots and just add a little bit more, I guess, kind of visual interest to your project. And make sure you're kind of alternating. If you've got some going horizontal, the next letter or so, do it vertical. Again, the goal is to kind of just keep it just interesting. And then I'm just doing some little swipies. Again, I'm not using the brush side, I'm using this side because it's kind of adding some extra texture because you've got some thick parts and some thin parts. So this will definitely be a page because I'm doing this with this white, so kind of keep this in mind, that I'm going to set aside somewhere safe. I think that exists somewhere in my studio, till those are completely dry, but they're adding just a little bit of dimension with the fact that you've got thicker and thinner parts, and it kind of gives some extra dimension to our little bubbles in our background. And I like layers, all the layers. But doing it with the end, like I said, gives you that gradient of where it's a little transparent in some places, and then it's a little thicker and a little more visibly white in other places. And before I forget, today is 2/23. Yesterday was 2/2 Tuesday, or whatever that was called. I'm going to add a little heart to our little guys right there, because why not? Awesome. I think I'm going to add a couple more little heart words on here. And before we skedoodle, I'm going to read our scripture again. And I actually want to read our little section from the She Reads Truth Bible again. So one last time, let's read our scripture. It is Ezekiel 36, 26 and 27. It says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone. I lost it. I will give you a heart of stone or remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will place my spirit within you and cause you to follow the statutes and carefully observe my ordinances. And then let's come in here. So in the She Reads Truth Bible, I wanted to read exactly how she put it because I loved it. It says, I love that God doesn't say he'll patch things up with his people. He doesn't offer to put a Band-Aid over it, wipe the dust off, or ignore the wound. The imagery here is that of complete renewal, not a repaired heart, but a new heart. And so that's kind of what we're discussing today with this page. And just once we allow God to have a new heart within us, it starts to change all these other things about our life. It starts to change our creativity. It starts to change our peace, our bravery, how we love each other and how we love ourselves. And that kind of thing. So, all right, before we hop off here, I do want to say a quick prayer over us and our day and our lives. Let's go ahead and bow your head, close your eyes, whatever you're more comfortable with. I mean, no one can see you anyway, so except for Jesus. Thank you guys, as always, for joining me. I can't wait to see you guys next time. And always make sure that you post whatever you've made in conjunction with this live in the group so that we can worship along with you. Thank you guys so much, as always, and I will see you guys next time.